Wish you had gotten 5 seasons of Mindhunter? How about a trippy sci-fi period thriller that ended on the biggest cliffhanger ever and then got canceled? These shows got canned for the worst possible reasons. David Fincher is clearly quite happy working with Netflix on original movies and other programming, given that he's repeatedly signed long-term contracts with the streamer. But even with his dedication to the company, there's no hope on the horizon for Netflix reviving Fincher's TV program Mindhunter. Running for 19 episodes from 2017 to 2019, Mindhunter saw 2 FBI agents in the late 1970s launching a program to interview serial killers who had been put behind bars. Garnering acclaim and Emmy nominations during both of its seasons, Mindhunter looked poised to run for however long Netflix wanted it. After all, there were tons of famous serial killers who could star in Mindhunter episodes.
Do you mind if we record this?
But what initially looked like a temporary hiatus for Mindhunter turned into a permanent ending for the program. The show was reportedly supposed to run for 5 seasons, but in 2023, David Fincher officially stated that Mindhunter Season 3 would never happen, and that the show's cost was to blame. Netflix no longer viewed the production, with its period piece setting and distinctive camera work, as being worth the money. And with the primary Mindhunter cast and crew all simultaneously busy with other time-consuming projects, future seasons of Mindhunter were doomed on multiple levels. You can find lifelong friends anywhere, including 7 strangers that you bond with through incredible means. That's the starting premise of Sense8, a sci-fi TV show as heightened as you'd expect from co-creators Lana and Lily Wachowski. The program chronicled 8 people from every corner of the Earth who find themselves telepathically connected. As they search for answers, a shadowy organization lurks in wait, hoping to slaughter them all. Sense8 accrued the sort of dedicated fanbase many prior Wachowski works also received. In June 2017, though, just 2 years after it premiered, Netflix canceled the show. Why? It came down to dollars and cents. This was a costly program to make, and possibly thanks to its deep lore and complicated narratives, not a show the vast masses were watching. Sense8 fans took their dedication to a new level to try and save their favorite show, but it was no use. After a TV movie finale, Sense8 was done. 1899 follows London immigrants traveling across the Atlantic to America who get caught up in a mind-bending puzzle aboard a lost ship, garnering widespread critical acclaim upon its release as an enjoyably surrealist take on brutal immigrant experiences and inspiring a fan base dedicated to unpacking its lore. 1899 was an instant viewership hit for Netflix. Given that the first season ended on a trippy cliffhanger, 1899 was seemingly guaranteed to become a head-spinning, long-term hit for the streamer. But 1899 was canceled in early 2023, inspiring a widespread outcry. This was especially frustrating given how open-ended the show's final scene was. Viewers who had become obsessed would get no proper closure for the program's fictional universe. Its cancellation remains a sore point for people to this very day. Some even saw its demise as an indicator that Netflix programs were difficult to become attached to. After all, if something as popular and well-made as 1899 wasn't safe, what Netflix show was? Well, you know what they say.
People are oblivious to reality.
Glow was so close to finishing. Netflix had previously given the go-ahead for Glow to have a 4th season that would also double as the program's conclusion, but plans to finish shooting the season were scuttled once COVID-19 shut down the entertainment industry in March 2020. Given that scripts had been written for the 4th season and an entire episode had been shot, Glow devotees had seemingly no reason to worry about the program suddenly getting axed. Unfortunately, by October 2020, devastating news came down that Netflix had canceled Glow despite the earlier renewal and shooting already commencing on Season 4. A show about wrestlers would have been incredibly difficult to film under COVID-era shooting regulations. Plus, facing a lengthy gap between seasons, Netflix decided it was better to cut its losses and focus on new shows rather than hope subscribers would remain loyal to Glow for several years. Unlike many Netflix-exclusive programs, 2017's American Vandal was not an exorbitantly costly show loaded with movie stars and lavish production values. It was a parody of true crime documentaries headlined by unknown performers.
This is really dope, right?
Yeah, I think so.
In spite of that, American Vandal eventually garnered a reputation as one of the most sharply hysterical Netflix shows out there, especially since it was so detailed in its skewering of the sort of crime shows Netflix makes by the truckload. American Vandal became enough of a hit to warrant a 2nd season that dropped on Netflix in September 2018. Given how thriftily produced yet popular Vandal was, it's easy to imagine a timeline where the streamer kept this program around for years to come. If true crime documentaries are so enduringly popular, why not also get in on the market for parodies of the genre? But a month after American Vandal Season 2 debuted, Netflix dropped the axe. There were never any public reasons offered for why it got canceled, though it was one of several Netflix comedies in 2018 and 2019 that stopped after either 1 or 2 seasons. American Vandal may have just gotten caught up in Netflix's late 2010s disinterest in keeping comedies around long-term. After The Sandman arrived in 2022 as a Netflix original TV show, the spin-off program Dead Boy Detectives premiered on the streamer in 2024. Dead Boy Detectives, as the title implies, follows a pair of ghosts who opt to spend their deceased days solving paranormal crimes on Earth. The characters have made all kinds of appearances across assorted graphic novels and comics since they were first created in April 1991. Given their longevity on the page, it was easy to imagine Dead Boy Detectives becoming a long-running program, especially given how many detective TV shows run for years.
You three have opened a real bag of worms. You have no idea.
But Dead Boy Detectives was declared deceased for good in August 2024, just 4 months after its premiere. Major media outlets reported that the program's demise was simply due to lackluster viewership, especially compared to other Netflix genre shows released in the 2020s. Others, though, have speculated that the cancellation of Dead Boy Detectives may have had something to do with the co-creator of the show's source material, Neil Gaiman. With Gaiman the center of numerous sexual misconduct and assault allegations, Netflix may have wanted to distance itself from the author. That would track, since The Sandman was also put on the block to be canceled after Season 2. Whatever the reason, those who latched onto the show will always treasure its short-lived virtues. With just a single season, Dead Boy Detectives garnered plenty of positive praise to give it a life beyond Gaiman's reputation. For many Netflix shows, the prospect of cancellation is a surprise that nobody involved sees coming. For the single-season program The Get Down, though, this outcome was a lot more foreseeable. Baz Luhrmann's grand musical epic chronicling the South Bronx in the late 70s was greenlit as one of Netflix's first original programs. But by the time the show's first batch of episodes began airing in 2016, all the headlines about The Get Down were about its exorbitant costs rather than the quality of the episodes themselves. Eventually, reports indicated that the first season of The Get Down had cost Netflix at least $190 million, with that number potentially going up once post-production was finished. Between the budgetary problems and the lack of a massive instant fan base for The Get Down, Netflix put its resources behind other, more popular original shows that also launched in 2016, like Stranger Things. 9 months after its premiere, The Get Down was canned. Years later, the show secured a cult following thanks to its bold musical and visual sensibilities, not to mention a cast featuring future A-list stars. It wasn't the TV equivalent to a tune that dominates the radio airwaves, but The Get Down still got plenty of viewers tapping their toes. Modern pop culture properties spun off from famous 80s movies are a dime a dozen. The Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance, however, was a unique creation in that it wasn't just a retread of 1982's The Dark Crystal. On the contrary, Age of Resistance took the often stuffy and stilted Dark Crystal world and finally injected some energy and personality into it. All the potential of Jim Henson's fantasy world was finally realized in this vast improvement on the movie. This feat was combined with truly masterful puppetry, which director Louis Leterrier captured with the most dynamic camera work ever afforded to a show centered on felt critters. In the hands of Leterrier and countless gifted craftspeople, the fantastical domain of Thra had never before been so tactile.
Nothing can stop the hunt!
Age of Resistance was already a creative triumph during its one-season run, though the final moments of its season finale indicated bleak narrative roads ahead. Alas, in the fall of 2020, Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance was struck with the worst news imaginable when Netflix officially canceled the program. Costs for this elaborate production had apparently spun so far out of control that when combined with underwhelming viewership, Netflix had no interest in pursuing further seasons, confirming that we live in a horrible timeline where Netflix lets The Ranch run for 80 episodes while halting the magnificent Age of Resistance after just 10. Let that laugh track play in your brain for a few hours. After serving as the character designer for Netflix's acclaimed hit show BoJack Horseman, it was time for Lisa Hanawalt to spread her wings and create her own animated Netflix program. Tuca and Bertie dropped on the platform in 2019 to instant rave reviews. For a moment, it looked like Horseman and Bertie would be the shining stars of Netflix's original adult-skewing animation output. But unfortunately, Tuca and Bertie was not long for this world. 2 months after the program's debut, Tuca and Bertie was canceled. For most Netflix shows, that would be the end of the story. Promises of potentially finding an axed program a new home usually wind up going nowhere, but Tuca and Bertie found a fresh space to thrive on Adult Swim, which ran the series for an additional 2 years. Though it didn't run as long as The Simpsons or Bob's Burgers, Tuca and Bertie at least lived to fight another day. Even with this outcome, however, Netflix's original cancellation still stings, especially given how abruptly the plug was pulled. Hannah Walt's creativity and vibrant visuals really deserved so much better than that. Let's face it, a lot of Netflix shows just play like movies drawn out to insufferable lengths. Not so with BoJack Horseman. Though the program did have an overall serialized narrative, individual BoJack Horseman episodes relished unique one-off settings or storytelling flourishes. One episode took place entirely underwater with no dialogue, while others would center an entire episode in the afterlife or inside fragmented memories of the distant past. You never knew just what direction an individual BoJack Horseman episode would go. The show also often tackled deep, messy material as part of its main character's journey. BoJack Horseman secured a respectable 6-season run on Netflix, though creator Raphael Bob Waxberg has openly said that he wanted the show to run for additional seasons before wrapping up. The reason BoJack Horseman ended after season 6 was simply due to the mandates of Netflix executives, rather than the creatives running out of antics for BoJack to get into. BoJack Horseman has been off the air for years now, but a series this good will never truly leave the airwaves of people's minds.